The UK has wind farms stretching to the horizon, fields of solar panels, and politicians promising a green future. So why is your energy bill higher than ever? Is it greedy energy companies cashing in behind closed doors? Or is it something deeper, structural, invisible, and baked into how Britain built its energy system? Because the truth is, renewable energy doesn't automatically mean cheap energy. Energy bills skyrocketed after 2022. Companies like BP, Shell, Centrica all posting record profits, and every politician promised to get tough on the greedy energy giants. It fits the narrative perfectly, faceless corporations squeezing ordinary people. But here's the thing. Yes, they profited, but they didn't create the conditions for those profits, the market did. Because the UK's energy system isn't a national grid controlled by one entity. It's a marketplace where electricity is sold at the prices set by the most expensive generator on the system. Even if 60% of your electricity comes from cheap renewables, if the last 10% comes from gas, everyone pays the gas price. It's like buying groceries at a market where every price tag is based on the cost of the most expensive tomato. So, how did we get here? Decades ago, the UK privatised and liberalised its energy market. The idea was competition, efficiency and lower prices. But what actually happened is this. Generation, distribution and retail was split into separate companies. Regulation focused on competition, not coordination. And instead of one national strategy, we got a patchwork of private interests. The fragmentation means the UK can't plan energy the way France or Norway can. It must buy energy from wherever it's available, and often that means importing gas and electricity at global market rates. In theory, that market should drive prices down. In reality, it just passes the volatility straight on to you. But this is where it gets counterintuitive. Because Britain is one of the world leaders in renewable energy. We generate around 40% of electricity from renewables, mostly wind. So why hasn't that made bills cheaper? Because renewable infrastructure still plugs into the same old market. Wind and solar might produce cheaply, but they're priced at the same rate as fossil fuels during high demand. And when the wind stops blowing or the sun goes down, the grid turns to gas-fired power plants, expensive, imported and volatile. It's like owning an electric car, but charging it from a diesel generator. On top of that, renewables often get paid not to generate when supply outpaces demand, because the grid isn't flexible enough to store or distribute all their energy. So we're paying for energy even when we're not using it. It's not greed, it's bad design. A system that rewards inefficiency while pretending to be modern. And another layer most people miss, the UK financed its renewable revolution through subsidies and levies on household bills. Every time you pay your energy bill, a chunk of it funds renewable investment, infrastructure upgrades, and environmental targets. That's good long-term policy, but it means consumers carry the cost up front. We're financing tomorrow's cheap energy with today's expensive bills. And because renewables require massive infrastructure, offshore terminals, interconnectors, battery storage, the capital costs are huge. So even when the fuel is free, the financing isn't. Until the infrastructure is fully amortized and storage is efficient, green energy will remain expensive, not because it's bad, but because it's incomplete. And there's one more player that we just can't ignore. Global finance. Remember BlackRock, Vanguard and the rest? They're not just in tech stocks. They own large chunks of energy companies, grid operators and renewable funds. These firms operate globally and their incentive isn't cheap domestic power. Their incentive is returns. So when you pay your bill, you're not just paying for energy, you're paying for profit extraction at every step of the chain. And because the UK's grid is privately owned, those profits go to shareholders and are not reinvested into lowering prices. France, for instance, still has a state-controlled EDF. When prices spike, the government can cap them. In the UK, that's called interfering with the market. We built a system where energy isn't a public service, it's an asset class. So, officially, the government's plan is to hit net zero by 2050. And that means even more renewables, more grid storage, and eventually, cheaper supply. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Until then, the system is built to make you pay for the transition. Energy firms profit in the short term, investors profit in the long term, and households fund both. Meanwhile, competition remains limited because few firms have the scale or capital to enter the market, so prices stay high. Not because of a conspiracy, but because the system rewards those who keep it that way. So, is it corporate greed or structural failure? It's both. Greed built into structure. The UK's energy market is a perfect microcosm of modern capitalism. Privatise the profits, socialise the costs, and call it innovation. Renewables should be a revolution, but in this system, they're just another product to be financialised. We don't need less green energy, we need a new kind of energy market, one that serves people before profit. Because until that happens, your bills won't reflect progress, they'll just reflect who's winning in a game you were never invited to play.